Hello, welcome to Revenant Reads. I'm Vin, and this is a book haul of new books. So this little stack that I have here, these are books that I bought new. So they're not used books. I don't often buy new books. I mean, maybe one or two a month tops, or sometimes I go many months without buying a new book. But in September and into October, I at least got four of them. So I figured I'd share them here. And if you've read any of them, you can let me know what to expect. So talk about the first one here. This is Rooted, Life at the Crossroads of Science, Nature, and Spirit. And this is one of those things that I've had a growing interest in. Even though I'm somebody, religiously, I'm an atheist. And generally, I'm a very secular person, but I have grown more and more interested in the use of pagan ritual in life to do things such as become more connected with nature. By things like adopting, for instance, aspects of the Wicca Wheel of the Year, you can have closer observation of the seasons. There are certainly many pagan rituals that are basically rooted in animism, and interacting with things like land spirits. Now, even if I don't believe necessarily in land spirits, I do think that there's value in interacting with nature as though it was more of a personified entity and not just a resource which you grab. So those are all ideas I've been playing with, and I want to also look at ideas that we can incorporate rationalism and science into it all. I don't want faith to be involved in this whole thing. I am not somebody of faith or somebody who necessarily values it either. So this is kind of a road that I've been on over the past year, and I'm looking at different ways to approach it. And that's what really caught my eye here. So I'll just read a part of the back because I can't really explain what all these things are. And this says, in Rooted, cutting-edge science supports a truth that poets, artists, mystics, and earth-based cultures across the world have proclaimed over millennia. Life on this planet is radically interconnected. Our bodies, thoughts, minds, and spirits are affected by the whole of nature, and they affect this whole in return. In this time of crisis, how can we best live upon our imperiled, beloved Earth? So I'll end it there. But it looks like it's really trying to figure out ways to connect with nature in hopefully a more scientifically based way. So anyhow, this caught my eye at the local bookstore, so I picked it up. Another one that caught my eye was this one. So Cunning Folk, and this kind of goes into my pagan interest. Even though these people would not have necessarily been pagan that this book talks about, I think there's definitely a relation here. So this is Life in the Era of Practical Magic by Tabitha Stanmore. So this looks at the late Middle Ages and early modern period and the use of magic, and not like, we tend to associate magic users. We would assume that they would all be called witches and that they would be burned at the stake in Europe or something like that. Or if they had real magic abilities, maybe they would be sanctified somehow. So what we're looking at here is practical magic. People who practiced magic, but they were not feared. They were not seen as threats. They just kind of lived within the regular fabric of society. People who wanted a more positive outcome for something coming in the future, they would go to these people, and these people would do some kind of magical ceremony to try and help them, win the odds of the fates or something like that. So this seems like a really interesting study into the ways that magic, and again, I'm thinking ritual as well. A lot of the stuff when I'm looking at it, I'm thinking of through the eyes of ritual. How that stuff would have played a prominent role in just people's everyday lives, and it would not have been looked down upon, it would not have been feared or anything like that. It was just they lived in a world that had a little bit more enchantment to it, a little more magic involved in the everyday, and this seemed like a really kind of cool look. So I think maybe next year for a storathon, I'm going to read that. I got two other history books that I'll also read for a storathon probably next year. This one I had seen on Justin's channel over at Triumphal Reads. He's one of my co-hosts for Storathon 2024. And that is a year-long reading event where we read, discuss, and celebrate nonfiction history. And we divide the year up into 4 quarters, each quarter looking at a different time period. This would fall into quarter 2, which looks at the years 500 CE to 1500. And this is the perfect swords, forging the Dark Ages. this kind of thing is like right up my alley. I am a sword enthusiast. You can see the swords up above me over there. And the Dark Ages, especially, Northern Europe Dark Ages, one of my favorite time periods. And what this looks at is a 7th century sword that was found that is, I guess, again, I haven't read it, so I don't know the details, but it was very complex. And it was really quite an extraordinary find. And what they do in this is they discuss the sword, but then they would also, I guess, discuss the context of the sword and the culture in which it was made and what it would have meant and what kind of, I'm assuming, skills a swordsmith would have had to have at that time and all that. So just kind of using this sword as a lens to look at that time period in history. So this sounds like it'll be pretty awesome. And lastly, I picked up The Deer Horde, an Old English bestiary by Hannah Vedeen, from the author of Word Horde. So I had read Word Horde, was it last year or the year before? Might have been 2 years ago now. Don't quite remember. I think it was 2 years ago. And she essentially used Old English as a window into Anglo-Saxon society. So she would go into the different words that would be used in Old English, and she would kind of tease it out or give you the context or what this would reveal about their perspectives. And I'm guessing that this is sort of a very similar thing. This is sort of like a sequel to it all. So the Deer Horde, Old English bestiary. If I remember correctly, deer basically meant animal in Old English. And she has chapters, I see one called Panther in here, Phoenix, Lion, Ant, Animals Unheard of, the Dove, Field Creature, Spider. So I guess that what she's doing here, and again, I'm only guessing, is using animals as ways to then, basically express or explain more about Anglo-Saxon society, while also giving you just little mini lessons into Anglo-Saxon or Old English language as well. So yeah, this is another one I'm probably going to read for a storython next year. And that's it. So, 4 new books that I bought, 2 that I ordered online, and 2 that I got from a local bookstore. And so we got The Perfect Sword, The Deer Horde, Cunning Folk, and Rooted. And if you've read any of these, love your thoughts. And as always, thank you, BookTube.